represent the entire A team here at Affiniscape. We know that what makes Affiniscape different is their commitment to ongoing education, not only on the tools and technology that makes our associations move, but also the people skills and the leadership skills that will transform the association industry worldwide. So that's why I started my company, is really out of a commitment to educate, to connect, and to inspire future global leaders. So just a little bit more about me. I told Rick that I would go ahead and sort of introduce myself. I'm a speaker, I'm a trainer, and most importantly, I am a committed volunteer myself. I volunteer for groups such as the U.S. Figure Skating Championships. I planned the inaugural Live Strong, the Lance Armstrong ride. I'm very active in Meeting Professionals International. I served for 10 years as a volunteer leader there in every role, including a chapter president, and in 2006 and 2007. I went on to serve as their chapter business manager. So I coached 14 of their chapters in the Western U.S. As a staff person for MPI. So I really come at the volunteer experience both from a volunteer side and much as you do as executive directors, also as a staff person. I'm president-elect of the National Speakers Association in Oregon. I'm pleased to have my friend Tom Singer here today joining us, also a member of the National Speakers Association. I chair the Component Relations Council for ASAE. I know many of you may be members of ASAE or are considering membership. Component relations is a fancy term for chapters, and I know many of you are chapters of larger national organizations, so I have a lot of experience with those folks. And I'm the lead trainer for GMIC, the Green Meetings Industry Council. But most importantly today, I'm an association resource for you. I'm available 24/7, 365 through the Affiniscape Resource Center, along with all of the professionals you see here. So from Jeffrey Cafode to Cynthia Diamore, Shelley Alcorn, we're all here in service to you, and we would like you to utilize us more. So that's my first challenge for you today. The first person who either tweets me or emails me an idea for a future blog that you want to see in the Association Resource Center will win a prize from me. My Twitter handle is @HDuckworth, and my email is just holly@hollyduckworth.com. So our intention for our time together, I want to address with you some of the benefits of volunteering with your organization. We're going to talk a little bit about what makes a good volunteer. I want to talk a little bit about the nuances between a volunteer and an employee. Share with you a little bit about delegation and some of the trends that I'm seeing and experiencing in volunteerism, as well as giving you 10 tips for your volunteers. We're going to have succession planning tips, a little bit on volunteer appreciation, and I'm here to answer your questions. So today is a technology zone. You guys have the hashtag. You now have my Twitter handle. I'm on Facebook. I'm on LinkedIn. But more importantly, I want today to be about a dialogue. What I know for sure is I am the only thing standing between you and adult beverages. So let's just have a dialogue. Let's have a conversation. Talk about what's going on in your organization, and let me serve as a resource for you. That said, I love to play with technology, and I want to know who's in. So everybody grab your cell phones. Grab your cell phone. We're going to play with a new toy. How many people have heard of Poll Everywhere? 1, 2, 3. Okay, we're going to, few people, we're going to play with a new tool called Poll Everywhere. And here's your first question. How do you recruit volunteers now? So how you're going to respond to me is you're going to use your text messaging feature on your phone, and you're going to, just like you text message, you're going to text to 37607 your answer. If you send an email to 37607, type into me 368847. If you send a fax, 368849. If you do an article in your newsletter, 368850. That personal ask, 8856. Tweet, Facebook, or LinkedIn, 8858. So text to me the one you use most often. Got one result. 2. Now my emailers. How are we doing? about 12 of you in the room that have participated. So our preliminary poll results show that many of you are sending emails to do your volunteer recruitment. So I hope after today's session you'll walk out of here with 2 or perhaps 3 new ideas that might help you to expand your recruitment message beyond simply an email. And of course, Poll Anywhere. Now you have a new cool tool that you can take back to your association and use in board meetings or member programs that might also help you to get some of this instant feedback that we're all looking forward to receiving today. So volunteerism, I like to look at volunteerism a little bit like the dating game. Anybody agree? I hear a little chuckle here. So, you know, we get all pretty, we put on our makeup, we polish our shoes, we make everything all perfect, and then we go out and we go shopping for the right mate. There's a lot of parallels between that and going out and asking for a volunteer. You go out, you polish your association, you polish the job descriptions, you have everything all perfect, and then you go out and you do the ask. Sometimes you get, yes, I would love to volunteer. But more importantly and more commonly nowadays, you get the, no, I don't have time, no, I don't want to volunteer, or my favorite, because I'm out in the dating world right now, is I don't have time for that complication of dating. So now it's time to maybe take some of those same principles of dating and polish them up a little bit. Now we have online dating, we have video dating, we have Skype dating. How can you use some of these new technologies in dating your members and getting your members engaged in your volunteer experience? So 100%. It was really great. I had the opportunity to have lunch with some of you folks today, and everybody at the table exclaimed, we're 100% run by volunteers. And I'd like to remind you all that not only are you 100% run by volunteers, even your staff volunteers to come to work every day and be an active participant in your program, in your IT department, your membership recruitment department. So as you start to look at some of these things, remember it's not just your volunteers that are volunteering, but it's also your staff. So how can you continue to engage the 100% of the work that you need to get done by 100% of your volunteers? So what are the benefits of volunteering? Everybody shout them out. Benefits of volunteering for your organization. Networking. What else?
Resume, credential.
Giving back. Resume.
Just
Experience.
Live longer.
Live longer. Love it.
Feel good. Seeing your ideas come to fruition.
Ideas. Be a part of something bigger. How many of you guys are utilizing these words when you go out and you recruit folks? You really, in today's economy, have to sell the idea of volunteerism as a lifelong way to grow personally and professionally. And that's why I am so passionate about volunteering. You can see from my resume, I literally have built my company and my career through getting out and volunteering. My mom often jokes, she likes to wave the picture of me in my citizenship award. You were meant to do this in 2nd grade! But that's because we take the time to make our volunteers feel welcome. Are you doing this in your organization? Do you take the time to have the welcome signage at your conference, at your convention, at your trade show? When people are approaching your registration desk, are they greeted warmly? Are they given some extra token that might identify them as a key volunteer or a key leader in your organization? And today is also about drilling down a little bit deeper. Many of you probably already recognize your board of directors, those 8 or 10 folks that are constantly there. You know, they attend their board meetings, they attend the quarterly meetings. But are you taking the time to really start to appreciate those ad hoc volunteers? Because we're going to talk about some of those future trends and how volunteering is really about breaking things down. So your organization now, you may only have 5 or 10% volunteering. I would challenge you that the average organization should have between 20 and 25% of your organization volunteering in some capacity. So if you're not running that statistic right now in your organization of what the percentage is of volunteering, first get to know the stat and then look to grow it. And again, 20 to 25% is what I challenge my groups to look at. So why use volunteers? First and foremost, they have a greater impact on your vision and mission. They have the ability to inspire the future of your organization. And although I've had a lot of debates about this, volunteers actually do save your organization time and they increase your organization's revenues. I want to point out 2 resources for you. Tim Sanders this morning provided you a book list. Well, if you don't already have these 2 on your list, I would recommend you put them there. The Decision to Join and The Decision to Volunteer. Has anybody in this room read those books? These are 2 industry research studies by ASAE, the American Society for Association Executives. It's part of a 3-part series. The 3rd book is called The Decision to Give. These books are probably about 150 pages long, and they are in-depth case studies of why people join in your organization. And I can tell you, in The Decision to Join, they interviewed over 15,000 different people in 10 different organizations, and throughout their research, the common theme is the personal ask. The number 1 reason people get involved is they are personally asked to volunteer. So I want to go back to that little text poll we played with. Is an email a personal ask? No, it's not. Thank you so much. Now, I'm not saying you can't send a personalized email to somebody saying, hey, Mark, I'd like you to volunteer for the golf committee. But for the most part, the volunteers and the boards that I am working with, they're doing that mass ask over and over and over again. And they're wondering why they're getting the same results. Nobody's signing up, nobody new's coming on board, there's no ongoing succession plan. It is the power of the personal ask. And if you're interested in more information on that, The Decision to Join is a great piece of research that breaks that all down for you. The next book is The Decision to Volunteer. Same criteria, 15,000 organizations. Same kind of deal. Why do people volunteer? The personal ask. Decision to join because they're asked. We know this is a relationship industry. That's why many of us have selected associations as our professional home for our career. But are we continuing that theme as we recruit, we retain, and we maintain volunteers? Here's my favorite quote from AmeriCorps. I have learned that the heroes are not people dressed in superhero costumes, but they are the people like you and I that really commit their lives to serving others. We do that in our careers. Now's the time to challenge our volunteers to do that on a whole new level, in whatever way is appropriate for them. And it's going to take the time for us, again, to use some of those skills that Tim Sanders taught us this morning, of empathy, of listening, of getting to know our members. Who are they now? What are their challenges? And how can we really connect on an emotional level with them so that they will not just become members in college, but they'll be members in their first job, in their 15th job, in their 16th job, and clear through retirement so that they know no matter where they are, your association is their professional home. So what traits do you want in a volunteer? Shout them out. Enthusiasm.
Dependability.
Dependability.
Trust.
Trust.
Knowledge.
Knowledge.
Passion.
Unlimited time.
Accessibility.
Accessibility. Time.
Creativity.
Follow through. Commitment. Are you writing those things into the job description, and are you interviewing for those skills? When I do this talk, I often laugh because I get a lot of people that say, Holly, I don't really want to go out and recruit people because what if I get the wrong people? It's always the wrong people that step up in the back. Okay. Well, I personally don't believe that you can fire volunteers. Anybody had to fire a volunteer? I prefer the term repurpose outside the organization. So by clearly identifying the traits that you're looking for in a volunteer and having the courage to write those things down, it gives you a document that when you're going out for that personal ask, you're asking the right people to begin with. So you avoid this having to fire them or repurposing them outside the organization. A lot of people ask me how that repurposing thing goes. It goes something kind of like this. Here's the job description, and I really think that your skill sets are better suited over here, and so you just gently send them to another organization, very calmly and coolly in the opposite direction of your organization, rather than saying, you're not a fit here. Find the place that they are a fit and help move them on to the next organization. So if I had to tool that would help you identify both the individual and the collective skills that make up a great volunteer team or a board of directors. Would that be helpful to you? Say yes.
Yes.
Well, I do happen to have that tool. And it's a great Excel spreadsheet that helps you to identify both board and team skills. So if you drop me an email, holly@hollyduckworth.com, I'd be happy to email you that Excel spreadsheet. And it lays out a lot of the skills that you just talked about, but some additional skill sets as well. If you're working for a global organization or a large organization, it really identifies some of those things, as well as the legal issues that you might need to consider, or the financial issues. So there's a tool out there that you name off all the people that you're looking at for board or volunteer service, and then all of these individual skills, and you can almost score them off for then assigning them to the best role for your organization. Okay. Here's your next poll, everybody. Grab your phone. Moving poll. This is my favorite part about technology. You never know if it's going to work. And then you work on the backup plan if it doesn't work. This worked before. Here's your second poll. What is the number of hours that Americans gave in volunteer service in 2010, according to Volunteering in America? So your phone number is 37607. Again, that's 37607. If you think it's 8 billion, 67191. 1 trillion, 67193. 50 million, 67198. Or 5 billion, 67204. About 6 results in. People are clicking away. The phone number again is 37607. About 11 people participating, 13. This is about the same number we had on the last poll. So first of all, I want to tell you the average volunteer hour in America is valued at $58.50. You want to go show an economic indicator to your volunteers, have them count up the number of hours they give in a month and times it by $58.50, and then go try to find those kind of resources to pay a salaried staff person to take on the role of those volunteers. It's a great stat for justifying some of the volunteer work that your organization is doing and that your volunteers are committed to. Excuse me?
They'll ask if it's tax deductible.
So the answer, according to Volunteerism in America, is 8.1 billion hours. The number one place volunteers give their time to is first and foremost their church or their religious or spiritual organization. And number 2 is to their alma mater, their education. And number 3 is to their trade, industry, or association. So it gives you a little bit of a sense of whom you might be competing with to get the attention of your particular members. I'll tell you the number one state for volunteerism, by no surprise, is the state of Utah. My home state, Oregon, is number 10. And I'd be happy to send you again the link to all of the states. If you're interested in knowing where your state ranks in volunteerism, I do have access to all those statistics as well.
Who's dead last?
You know, actually, if I can remember right off the top of my head, it's Alaska. And again, I think it's a sort of a population to the number of groups that you can volunteer, the way it works out.
Too busy trying to keep warm.
They get money just for living there, so I'm sure you're not too worried about it. I'm not too worried about volunteerism in Alaska. This is a great resource for volunteering. The nonprofit sector is a $1 trillion industry in the U.S., and I have some great video that I'd also be happy to share with you a little bit more about the economic engine that nonprofits are. So, volunteer versus employee. We clearly all in this profession get it. The thing that I wanted to drive here is that it's more than just a paycheck. As we know with volunteerism, it's all heart, it's all passion, it's all commitment, and they're generally giving their evenings and their weekends and time away from their family to volunteer. What we as staff perhaps might be forgetting to teach is teaching the volunteers who are then going to get that second level of volunteer, that nuance. And so they are coming to their volunteer role with their paid staff hat on, thinking that they can then manage a committee for a golf tournament or manage a committee for a newsletter. And they do not understand some of the principles that I'm going to share with you today about empathy, getting to know your person, setting up realistic timelines, it's evolution in association, not revolution. So as you're starting to design your volunteer orientation programs, your new member programs, you want to instill this idea of volunteerism very early on so that everybody starts to set very realistic expectations in the recruiting, the retention, and the maintaining of the volunteer life cycle so that these volunteers come back year over year. I love to tell the story of one volunteer team I work with. They had a woman, this was an organization I was working with in Hawaii. And Hawaii, smaller chapters, about 80 people. So that 25% rule, to keep just 25% volunteering is really, really excruciatingly hard for them. They had one woman who had been the volunteer over the communications and newsletter for 4 years. She changed jobs and wanted to resign. The entire board, every single person called, emailed, no, you can't resign. We'll never have a newsletter again if you don't keep the newsletter. Well, what they created in that woman was such a resentment of everything that she had done for so many years, rather than the appreciation and the thank you for her service and supporting her in the recruitment of the next volunteer, that she went out and told all 70 of the other volunteers, don't you ever volunteer for this organization because they will take more from you than you can possibly give. And so I'm really encouraging volunteers as I tell that story and executive directors to start thinking about when it's okay to let a volunteer go. Because this idea of being a volunteer versus an employee, the second that your volunteers somehow in their own mind come up with the idea that they are a volunteer, that they are an employee, even though they don't get a paycheck, they start to get a little bit resentful. And it's better to let those volunteers go who have had an amazing volunteer experience, who will then go out and tell 25 of their friends how amazing it is to work for the American Medical Association or the Dental Association or the Golf Association and be an active recruiter in the future of your organization, than have them leave on a negative note.
I have a question for the group. Do any of you guys have in your policies and procedures or in your bylaws how long a volunteer can be in their position?
We have some retention.
Throw out some of the timelines.
2, 3.
But are you talking about like officers on committees or the board itself? Or
Committees, chairs, anything.
We don't.
We
just naturally get rid of them.
What I see as a consultant in most of my groups is either 2 years or 3 years. You have to rotate off for one before you can come back. And then I often see, this is a little bit newer, but a caveat that also says you cannot serve on more than X numbers of committees. Because I've seen a lot of organizations where one volunteer is on 5 committees. It's not healthy for the organization, and it's also not healthy for the volunteer. But that's a great place to really revisit right now as volunteerism is changing. And I really recommend no more than 2, and trying to encourage those volunteers to not be on a committee that has something happening at the same time. Don't sign up for the gala committee and the golf committee if they're both in the 30-day window. So the next thing that I think we need to start stepping back before we go do a volunteer recruitment in is getting to understand the motivations of a person. People volunteer for 2 very distinct reasons. One is, of course, to share a skill, and one is to learn a skill. And as association people, because we live in this every day, we just know it. We forget that people will come to volunteer to learn, practice, and experience a new skill. So it's time that we build into our databases a little bit of information about the skill sets and the passions of the people that are volunteering for us. so that when you have that need come up for that person to write that blog, you have a catalog of resources to go to. Steve is really great at blogging. We haven't tapped into Steve for a couple of years. We're going to ask Steve to write this blog. So often we go out asking for somebody to share their expertise, which is fantastic, but it's starting to think about, can you bring in new volunteers with different experiences to share a skill, especially as we're in this Generation XY gap right now. We have a lot of youth in associations right now that are craving the opportunity to volunteer. I worked with the National Association of Realtors a couple weeks ago, and I had their senior leaders the first day, and their exercise was around not best practices, but next practices. I spent 90 minutes working with these folks to say, take a current idea and make it fresh, make it new, make it exciting, twist it up with technology. They couldn't do it. It was a little challenging. Then the next day I had the opportunity to work with the youth of the National Association of Realtors. And I said, okay, you guys, it's no longer about best practices. They go, we don't even really know what the best practices are. It's all about next practices. How do you innovate? And they had flip chart after flip chart of flip chart of new things that they wanted to share their skills in, but they needed the opportunity to bridge this gap. How can you build a volunteer program that will allow those who want to share, but those who also want to learn the opportunity to learn? And as you look at your organization, the opportunity to give an MBA from your XYZ organization is a really great way to start pitching volunteerism, because they'll be able to learn skills there, or try new things, or fail, make a mistake that they maybe can't do in their everyday life. I say I have my MBA from MPI because of the 10 years that I volunteered for MPI. I learned a lot of things that I would not have had the opportunity to do in my everyday job.
I'm working on mine. I'm working my MBA in MPI.
Oh, great. What chapter are you in?
Georgia.
Georgia, great. Well, we'll compare stories. Referencing some of the stuff that Tim said this morning, we have to remember that our volunteers have hundreds of thousands of opportunities to volunteer. I'm working on a new blog right now for the holidays. It's the 12 days of charitable giving, and it's 12 ways that you can purchase a gift that not only is an item, but is also doing greater good in the world. And by doing the research for this blog, it's really come to my attention how many different organizations there are out there. So we need to take the time to slow down and really think about what is that specific, unique story that you connect to your members on, and how do you get those members to tell that story a little bit through their volunteerism, through their networking, through the education programs, and the volunteerism that you're providing. I think we're out there right now. Everybody thinks YouTube's really hot. We're getting a lot of testimonials and videos, but we're not applying some of that video technology to member recruitment, member retention, and the ongoing member experience. I'm going to show you a few examples of that. But again, with volunteers, it's all personal, it's all passion. So how many people do we need? Anybody? How many volunteers do you have in your organization? As many as we can get. Anyone?
Probably 40.
About 40 people. This is step one for a lot of you. Sit down and really start to understand how many people you have. I think this volunteerism thing gets a little overwhelming because we've got 6 committees, and each committee needs 10 people, and then those committees need subcommittees and ad hoc committees. Sometimes it's not really that big. That breaking down those job descriptions and understanding, in our organization that 20 to 25% is X number of people, and then go pull the roster of how many people are volunteering. You may not have as big of a gap as you think you do. Many of the organizations that I work with don't have as huge a gap as they think they do, once they take the time to get that data together. So first of all, again, that's being honest and truthful. How much time does a position take? I like to say what time the committee is busy, and I encourage my volunteers to prioritize your personal life first. I think I'm probably one of the only volunteer recruitment people out there that says, please, bring your calendar to the board meeting, bring your calendar to the committee meeting. And if you know you're going on a 3-week Caribbean cruise in the month of January, I beg you, do not sign up to be in charge of my January education program. if you start from that place of honesty and truth, what time of year you need them and how much time you need them for, you automatically build up that rapport with them, you build that relationship with them, and they understand that you understand they have life outside. Now that's not to say that things don't come up and things don't change, but I find by doing that I have a deeper relationship with the folks that I work with, that they're much more willing to come to me and say, I'm really sorry, but I'm going to have to drop off of writing for the March newsletter because I just got this great business opportunity. They know that I understand how it goes. Rather than them never saying anything, March 15th comes for the newsletter, I don't have my newsletter article, and I'm out there asking them where it goes. Again, building that relationship early and being honest about the time commitment, both in writing as well as in conversation. How many of you have your job descriptions on your webpage? Your volunteer job descriptions. So there's an idea for those who don't have that. All the volunteer job descriptions posted on the website. Next is authentic. Be authentic about who you are as an organization. Make sure that every volunteer knows the vision and the mission of your organization and that they can recite it verbatim for what you want them to do. Volunteers want to be connected to that higher vision of what your organization can be a year from now, 2 years from now, or 10 years from now. I speak about 100 days a year on the road. I've been doing my own company for 2 years. I have yet to stand in front of a group of chapter leaders in any organization and say, can you recite the vision and mission of your organization, and have any of them be able to recite it to me. So I challenge you that if they don't know the vision and mission, perhaps they're driving the bus going like this and not straight to that vision and mission. So you can start that by just getting them really, really clear and authentic about what they're doing and how they're doing it. Next is this job description. I like to look at volunteer job descriptions because they generally say something like this. We are looking for somebody who is willing to do our social media. We would like them to update all of our Facebook pages, all of our LinkedIn pages, and send out all of our tweets, period. Now, I don't know anybody in this room who has the rest of their life to volunteer for that position, but that's kind of what it feels like. So go back and look at your job descriptions right now and start thinking about data-driven job descriptions. I am looking for a start date, I am looking for an end date, and the exact performance metrics that you want me to provide. So it might sound like a job description where you're getting a paycheck. We know that it's not because it's volunteerism, but it allows you to reward them faster and allows them to get quicker wins. A fantastic way to get more inspired volunteers quicker is find a way that every one of your volunteers, from the day they sign on to their project, within the first 30 to 90 days, they can have a win. And then celebrate the heck out of that win so that they are so committed they want to volunteer again and again and again. The volunteers of tomorrow, we've trained them on this. They want to know what you expect from them, and then they want to be able to walk away with gratitude. So think about that in your job description and encourage your volunteers to start putting that end date, because that also helps you with your finances, your record keeping, and you closing the projects that you want to be done. That August gala fundraiser, you don't want it to drag on until December of the next year. You want it to end too by writing it in the job description. It sets early framework and parameters for those types of conversations. Next is delegation. As staff, we obviously have certain specific roles we delegate to the volunteers. Do you trust them to do it? Do you give them an understanding of what their role, their responsibility, and then what resources they have? It's another thing to add to those job descriptions. As the Twitter master, here are the resources you have. Is your organization going to give them a computer? Whatever it is, by laying out those resources early, there's no question of how this program is going to go. But then delegate to them and trust them to do it. Give them a framework, let them know, you're done, and have, bi-weekly or once a month check-ins with them so that they feel empowered to make the changes that you want done. Let them own it. The number one reason when I go and I interview boards and I work with people that have come off of a board, the number one reason they say they will never volunteer again is because they were not allowed to own the project that they were given. I volunteer personally on a board right now where my role was the membership recruitment strategy person. So go out, figure out who the right people are at the right time in the right place. I write all these beautiful brochures, all these flyers. I'm clearly tech savvy. I know how to do this. I come to the board meeting and I say, these are all the things that I want to do. And that senior board member happens to say to me, past president, I might add, nope, we tried all that. It won't work. I was so deflated as a volunteer because they didn't delegate to me and let me own the process. Are you doing this to the volunteers in your organization? Some of those new people that might have an idea, maybe now's the time to give them a little bit of room to play. It's up to you if you want to have that ultimate sign-off authority, but to empower those leaders of tomorrow, delegation and letting them own it is really a huge key. Next is the follow-up piece. I've got a lot of volunteer groups, they say, oh yeah, I signed up to be on some committee, but I don't remember which one. I don't know what I'm supposed to do. Yeah, nobody contacted me. I highly recommend, if you're having this issue, to look at the MPI, that's Meeting Professionals International Westfield Chapter webpage. It, to date, is the best volunteer recruitment, retention, and appreciation program that I've seen in any organization. They have not only everything online, but they have a fantastic follow-up program. So from the day a member signs on, they have an interview with a volunteer or HR coordinator. That person logs what they want to share, what they want to learn, what skill sets they have. Everything goes into the database. They then have a dialogue where they co-create a volunteer experience that not only meets actually, but exceeds the needs of that member. So they're having a quality member experience. Then they're assigned to that appropriate committee. So perhaps they're going to be on the, what's a committee I haven't used so far? They're going to be on the technology committee. 30 days after that person has been assigned to that committee, that same HR volunteer coordinator calls them back and says, were you approached by Ashley, the technology chair? Did she call you? Did she give you a task? Do you have something to do? Do you feel valued as a volunteer? If the answer is no, then they go back to Ashley and they say, gosh, what happened? Again, we understand that you're a volunteer, but all of these things still apply to Ashley as well. Being honest, being authentic, having a job description, and following through. I really don't understand in organizations this whole idea we have a problem with volunteer follow-through, because I set up the expectations early and often that your volunteer role is integrated into your life, and we really ask that you bring the same responsibility to this organization as we bring to you, and it becomes a partnership. So follow up with your volunteers is really key on whatever level you can make that happen. And then lastly, appreciation. We'll talk a little bit about appreciation, but in the old model of appreciation, it was the big awards and the big plaques. How many people have dusty plaques in their office from something they volunteered for? Raise your hand. We've all got a few dusty plaques out there. One of those innovative things about the next generation and volunteers of the future is some of us still want dusty plaques, but many of us just want that handwritten thank you note, that phone call that said, the fact that you went and you picked up the centerpieces for our education program really made a difference. Again, are you asking that at the beginning when you're recruiting those volunteers? At the end of this, what kind of appreciation do you want? And appreciate them in the way they want to be appreciated. I'm from Oregon, the worldwide headquarters of Nike. So I like to say if I can order my shoes on Nike.com and I can get a pink swoosh on the right and a yellow swoosh on the left, my ideal volunteer experience would be that I have the opportunity to come and volunteer in a customized way, that at the end of that experience I'm getting appreciated with the pink swoosh and the yellow swoosh, whatever that is, that we as an organization and a partnership have co-created together. And that's where this socially enabled, fast-paced XY leader volunteer of the future is also going. So recruitment ideas, volunteer fair, virtual volunteerism, a volunteer job board. How many people know what a volunteer job board is? Love this idea. If you're not doing it, simple, fast, effective way to get more volunteers specifically targeted to your needs. You go to your board meeting, you pass out 3x5 index cards or the equivalent if you're doing a digital board meeting, and you ask every board member to submit 1 or 2 micro tasks they need done between that board meeting and the next board meeting. Those are then printed out or posted at the education program that you are having next. Becomes your virtual job board. So that when your members come in, they're greeted, they get their name badge, and somebody says, by the way, we want you to be an active and engaged member of our community, and these are tasks that we would love to have you do in the next 30 days. Start date, end date, mini task customized to the skills and abilities they can do. Then, at that next board meeting, everybody writes out that 3-sentence thank you note, or they stand up and they announce, these are the 5 volunteers that gave and made a difference in our organization. This is a way that you can do micro volunteerism, and it becomes a great recruitment idea for the future. So, volunteer manager, I gave the example of Meeting Professionals International here in the Westfield chapter. They have added a position onto their board that is called Vice President of Leadership Development. That was a year 1 transition. I think year 2 and year 3, they've now transitioned that to a paid staff role. In your organization, what could that transition look like for you? Could you have somebody that is the HR person, the volunteer HR person? I like to suggest that perhaps the president-elect or the chair-elect start integrating these roles, recruitment, retention, and maintaining volunteers, into the work that they're doing to build their team. It's a natural place to go and a natural place to track the volunteer experience. This is also something that you want to partner with your staff on, so that those Excel spreadsheets with that confidential information of the fact that Mark's birthday is November 15th. Mark is really good at website design and he loves to do floral arranging. All those things are kept in a confidential and secure place that will be there year over year, as we know volunteers cycle off each year. I do offer a class. It's technology for boards. One of the tools that I recommend is Google Docs. This is a great document to post on Google Docs. Offer leadership training. Ongoing training is a huge benefit to membership recruitment, and not just the on-the-job training, but do you offer a initial orientation program and then ongoing either monthly or quarterly webinars? That's really a lot of what my company specializes in. As staff, we know we have to be ahead of those volunteers by a quarter, so that when they get there and they don't know what to do, you're there with that tool or that here's how you build your strategic plan for next year, your budget for next year. Here's how you recruit your team. This ongoing leadership training can be a huge advantage when you go out and you recruit that volunteer, because then they take those skill sets back to their organization or their company and become better employees. So tell your testimonials. Why do you volunteer? What do you get from it? And how does that impact your life? This is about that engagement thing that Tim was speaking about. How are you connecting to tell your authentic stories? Now, I recommend you do this really in as many platforms as you possibly can. The associations of the future are starting with video. It's so easy to do. $150, flip cam, take it to your board meeting when people are having that, 15 to 20 minutes before the board meeting starts. Assign a staff person or maybe a communications chair to go and capture 1-minute videos of, hey Sally, you've been the chair of membership recruitment for the last 6 months. Tell us one thing that you learned and how this impacts you in your job. Boom. Record it, post it on your association webpage. Then when you have to go out and recruit that new volunteer, you can go, by the way, do you want to hear Sally's story, what volunteerism meant to her? That's all right there. You can leverage your time as an organization by the use of video. So I'm going to show you what I did. I hope you can hear this. This was a fun way that I did a recruitment video. This is for ASA. Can you hear it? So this was a video that I produced. It was a 3-part video series. I chair this ASAE council. So 90 days before I had to have all my applications in, I went out and I recruited the first video where I talked about the skill sets that I was looking for, the start date and the end date of the position, and I wanted to empower people to bring their own vision to the committee. So that went out 90 days before. Then 60 days before, I created a second video that went out that talked about my experience on this particular committee and how all of the 5 or 6 or 10 generations of chairs had impacted where we were as an organization today, and how by getting on this council you had the opportunity to impact going forward. And then 30 days before, I did this little video that says, have you done it yet? Are you ready? Are you excited? Because if you haven't, now time is ticking away and it's time for you to get your application in. And all of these videos were Twittered, Facebooked, LinkedIn. I had them transcribed so they became the little blogs. And the COO of ASAE told me he still thinks this is the #1 reason why I had the largest recruitment pool ever of candidates to my particular council, because people got to know me and who I was in a very tangible way. Now my little secret was I spent probably 90 minutes in this park recording those videos. I recorded 1, 2, and 3 on the same day. I edited them all. I put the ASAE logo at the end and the contact information with the link, beginning and end, so it had a little end post. So simple. And then I set them up in Hootsuite to go out on those designated days. So this wasn't something that I had to do every 30 days. I did it all in one focused setting, and I reaped a lot of really great rewards and engagement around it. Can your organization do this too? And if you can't do it as staff, do you have maybe a volunteer that's equally excited about the power of video that can use it to tell their story?
We do it for our association, and what we realized, like, the cost-effective way to do it is at your conference. You already have an AV company there, and most of them have the capability. So we just at receptions pull a couple people to the side, and the AV company, does a quick. They do the video, then they went home and edited it to us. And now we've got like 12 that we just kind of use intermittently throughout the year.
Yeah, it's a fun, fantastic way to connect to your audience. So volunteers need to know that they're a part of something bigger. There's a million tools that allow you to do that. But the big key is this next generation of volunteers, they're using social media. Are you going to social media and starting to track those skills, post your volunteer job descriptions out there, and Twitter, and then certainly using the phone as well? We don't often think about social media as that one-on-one ask. As you start to get engaged in these media, you start to recognize that the one-on-one relationships deepen because of them. As an example, Tom and I have really only met. This is our second time. We've met at a couple national conventions. We have LinkedIn on Facebook. We see each other's posts. I happen to have the opportunity to be here in Austin, and he was able to join. What is that in your organization? Your people are meeting at a regional or national conference. They can then use these tools to recruit. In fact, that's what I did with Tom. I knew Tom's area of expertise. I wanted to do a silent auction package for the National Speakers Association Foundation, and I think I Facebooked you, and I said I
twisted the arm is the way I would. Virtual arm twist.
I was virtual arm twist. I said, I want to do a package of social media experts. Are you willing to participate? We met one time. I sent this personal ask for a very specific thing. I need 1 day of your time. We're going to raise money for the foundation. He said yes, and we raised $10,000. It was the combination of the face-to-face with the social media that allowed us to volunteer and do great things in the world. And your organization can do the same. Next is Volunteer Match. Volunteermatch.org. A lot of you think you have to start your own online volunteer matching programs. This is a website that's already set up for you. Log your skills, log your needs, and they'll match you. Next is sparked.com. This is the newest trend in volunteerism. It's called micro-volunteerism, and it allows you to volunteer from your phone. This is a mobile app I'm a part of. I have all my skill sets logged in, all my areas of interest, and they send me customized volunteer experiences. So the one I got most recently is, are you interested in saving the whales? They were looking for a blogger to write 500 words on whale life and It wasn't my deep level of expertise, so I didn't respond to it, but this is the kind of thing you should be looking at in your organization. How can you create micro-volunteerism experiences that allow your people to volunteer from their cell phone? So how do we work to retain volunteers? I talked about giving them ownership, something meaningful to do, tie it to your vision and mission, make sure they understand the vision and mission. Demonstrate how what they do makes a difference. I like to flip it too and say, you guys, if we don't get enough volunteers for X, we're not going to do it this year. You'd be surprised how you might mobilize people when you just say, we don't have it this year. It's okay to let the fun run go this year because we've just burnt out our people. And right now in this economy, that is really true for a lot of organizations. Getting volunteers to say no is one of the hardest things I ever have the opportunity to do. So as executive directors, let's try to plan fewer things on that strategic plan and add things along the way rather than let them put a lot on at the beginning and then try to get them to take it off, because we want them to know that they get that win in the first 30 to 60 days and that they're making a positive difference in everything that they do. Making it easy to volunteer, online, social media, Facebook, what can I give you on my cell phone, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, when it's convenient for me. Keep the task size manageable. I'm usually looking for a bunch of tasks in that 1 to 2 hour time frame, start date, end date, 1 to 2 hours. I can get pretty much anybody to say yes to 1 or 2 hours. Are you doing that, or are you going to your person and saying, here's this entire committee for the entire year, please, I beg you. Just start to look at how you can break those down into smaller bites. Regular committee meetings, this can be somewhat controversial. Know the culture of your volunteers and structure this according to that culture. But most importantly, listen and know your members. There are 12 main areas that people are passionate about volunteering in. If you get to know not only why they volunteer for you, but what other organizations they're volunteering for, it makes you a much more powerful organization. All of these slides will be made available to you, but a lot of them are animals, civil rights, youth, arts, religion, politics. There's 12 major areas, and so I recommend you start to look at those and understand where you are to your members and what they're passionate about. How do we maintain this volunteer base? Demonstrate all those things that you guys talked about, education and networking. Document those things and be very specific. Get somebody to stand up there on video and say, I am so grateful that I volunteered for the education committee. I'm not a meeting planner, but I had the opportunity to learn meeting planning skills and how to contract a venue because of my volunteerism, and I was able to take those skills back to my organization. You get that on video, you've got a lot of people that are going to want to participate with you. Next is appreciation. I showed my ASAE video. The fun thing about that was they were so inspired by my video that at the end of that volunteer year, they actually created a volunteer appreciation video for us, where they went around and they asked all of their staff to share a little tidbit or knowledge about how a volunteer had impacted them and helped make their job a little bit better. Maybe you could do that too. I've talked a lot about it being customized. Thank you notes are golden. 3 sentences, 3 days. I always have at least 3 in my briefcase. I have a personal mission. I write 1 handwritten thank you note every single day, and it doesn't have to be at the end of the project. If you know you've got a volunteer team that's struggling right now, the easiest way to get them re-engaged is take that time and write that quick note. At the time you wouldn't normally think of is a great time to say, I'm really proud of the contributions that you're making. You're halfway to your goal. Whatever that is for that particular team, will get them sparked again with something as simple as a thank you note. Thank you certificates. I'm huge on certificates. Again, it's not for everybody. Some of them are a little dusty, but it's kind of nice to go in and have something that you can show to your boss, or even as an entrepreneur, to file away, to know, keep a track of a log of what you're doing. So 10 tips. I'll provide this for you on the website that is customized for you. These are things that your volunteers are thinking about. So as an executive director, I think you want to think about for volunteers. Make sure that they're working on something they're passionate about. Again, the skills, to offer something new. When possible, combined goals. Because we know time is so limited right now, start to look at how you can combine things for them Never let a volunteer overcommit, because when they overcommit, they're going to go tell 10 of their friends how awful your organization was, even though it wasn't your organization. So it's much better to undercommit than overcommit. Be prepared for an application or approval process. We often, again, we think we have to take everybody and then we're afraid we're going to fire somebody. If you have a very clear application process, this is a great way that you can kind of weed out some of those people that may need to be mentored into a volunteer role in the future rather than taking them on at the very beginning. Think family. We all know in associations we're all family. We're rolling through this journey together, and your volunteers are exactly in the same boat. I love this one. I never thought of that. Instead of going, that idea will never work, train your volunteers when they're working with other volunteers to say, I never thought of that, rather than this will never work. It will allow you to have a much more positive volunteer recruitment, retention, experience, and probably save you a few bruises along the way. Volunteerism gives voice to your heart. I've had the privilege of interviewing many past international level volunteers, and they all, in their own way, continue to tell me that they volunteer at the state, regional, or national level because it adds a depth and a tapestry to their life they would never otherwise have. I know that's true for me. So how do you capture that experience and let them know that volunteerism will give them an opportunity to give voice to their heart and their passion and change your association for the good? Another book reference I recommend for volunteers, this is totally the opposite of the research way. This is a book called Tribes by Seth Godin. Anything Seth Godin does is amazing. But this is really about the future of we need you to lead us. You guys, all these volunteers you need will have some level of leadership within whatever group they are. He really breaks down this tribe mentality and this idea of family. And this is a 150-page read. You can read it on the flight home. Really quick book. Succession planning starts today. Every volunteer knows once you got them on board, they got to find 2 people to take their position. I'm head shaking, 2. You never know in this economy who's going to get a new job, who's going to move out of state, be working somewhere else. Set that up as a culture in your chapter, your organization, your association. Always be picking 2 and build that depth long term. And that's how you get to that 20 to 25% of your organization participating. So thanking volunteers, this is a great fun way to do it. I thought, pictures, thank you volunteers. You don't always have to think about that big expensive award gala. Come up with that unique thing. One of my most memorable volunteer thank you appreciation things is a paperweight. That a gentleman, he happened to remember that I was really into flowers, and he bought me a paperweight that has a flower in it as a thank you gift. Small gesture, super meaningful, and I will remember it for a long time. You can do that as you thank your volunteers as well. So how many people have seen the show The Secret Millionaire? This is a hit show right now where millionaires go out, they give up all of their worldly possessions for a week, and they spend 5 days going out and interviewing charities and nonprofits that they know incognito that they're going to give some sum of money to at the end of the week. So these people have no idea. They're walking into homeless shelters, they're walking into camps for minorities, they're walking into, oftentimes it's women's shelters. It could be any variety of things that they're passionate about. And they interview and understand where all the money goes. We as nonprofits have the opportunities to be secret millionaires to our members by giving them the opportunity to participate. Some of them are going to become donors. Some of them are just simply looking to renew their membership. But really look at your opportunity to go recruit, retain, and maintain them as you, as staff, being a secret millionaire in their life and giving them an experience they wouldn't otherwise have. So I don't know what your destiny will be, but I know one thing. Those of you who find ways to serve are the happiest. And Dr. Schweitzer provides this quote for us. So, again, building off the theme that Tim started this morning, it's really about empathy, it's about getting to know our members and giving back in the organization. If you take the time to get to know your members one-on-one, recruit them one-on-one, and build a relationship with them long-term, they are going to be committed to your organization in ways you can only imagine. So we had a huge list of things we were going to talk about, from the benefits of volunteering to volunteers versus employees. I've given you lots of case studies on how to delegate, how to break tasks down, 10 tips for volunteers. Talked a little bit about succession planning, certainly appreciation. What questions do you have for me?
Can we get a copy of these slides?
no handouts. I'm the leadership trainer for the Green Meeting Industry Council. I try to do everything as green as possible. That's what happens when you're from the recycle capital of the world. I have created a custom web page for you, hollyduckworth.com/affinescape. All of these slides are available there, as well as all of the various references that I have provided. If you're interested in having the tool, email me or use Twitter. There's lots of ways to keep this dialogue going. Just a little bit about my company, what I do. Certainly we work with lack of volunteers, strategic planning, succession planning. I have some programs on technology in the boardroom. I want to be here to serve you, speaking, training, facilitating. I have a brand new program coming out in 2012. It's a video coaching program. You get one customized video from me with a leadership tip or tool every single week directly to your email. So that's going to be coming down the road. And I certainly offer Board of Director University. So lots of opportunities to participate with me. Ask me your questions, because I want to, if I can't get them on the Affinescape resource toolkits for you, I will work with the A team so that you guys have every resource that you need to be successful in the good work that you're doing. So thank you so very much, and I'll be here throughout the rest of your conference.